Everyone in Red Willow knew the giant rancher by reputation long before they ever saw him, because when a man stands a head taller than most, carries shoulders like a barn door, and speaks only when necessary, stories grow faster than wheat in spring. They said his name was Matthew Cole, that he'd broken horses barehanded, scared off thieves without firing a shot, and once lifted a wagon axle alone after a bridge collapsed. And so when Clara Finch approached his ranch gate with her young son clinging to her skirt, her heart beat hard enough to hurt. The boy, Thomas, had done something unforgivable in the eyes of the town. He had thrown a stone through the rancher's window while chasing a stray dog, shattering glass that everyone believed was as untouchable as the man himself. Clara had spent the night rehearsing apologies, knowing full well that as a widowed seamstress with little money, she could not afford the anger of a man who owned half the grazing land in Valley. When Matthew finally appeared, stepping out of the barn into the morning light, his shadow swallowed the ground between them, and Thomas began to cry, burying his face as Clara forced herself to speak. She apologized not once, but many times, voice trembling as she offered payment she did not have, punishment she did not want, and responsibility she already carried too heavily. The rancher listened without interruption, his massive hands resting calmly at his sides, eyes fixed not on the broken window, but on the shaking boy. When she finished, silence stretched so long Clara feared she might faint, until Matthew knelt. An act so unexpected it stunned them both, bringing himself level with Thomas, who peeked out through tears. Matthew asked him why he ran so hard after the dog, and the boy confessed, breathless, that the dog looked lost, like his father had before he never came home. Something shifted then, something unseen but deeply felt, and when Matthew finally stood, he did not raise his voice or his hand. Instead, he smiled, a slow, gentle smile that cracked the legend clean in half, and told Clara that glass could be replaced, but courage and honesty were harder to find. He invited them inside to warm up, ordered breakfast set as if guests were expected, and spoke of accidents as teachers, not crimes. Clara realized in that moment that fear had blinded the town to the truth, and that behind the sighs and silence was a man who understood loss better than most. And if this beginning already has you wondering what comes next, make sure to subscribe, because the smallest moments often lead to the greatest changes. Word spread quickly, as it always did, but not in the way people expected, because instead of anger or punishment, the giant rancher was seen walking through town with Thomas perched on his shoulders, pointing out clouds shaped like horses, while Clara followed behind in disbelief, watching her son laugh without fear for the first time in months. Matthew fixed the broken window himself, refusing payment, and quietly arranged work for Clara, mending linens, managing accounts never as charity, always as partnership. The town began to notice other things too, how Matthew listened more than he spoke, how he hired men no one else would, how he paid fair wages and expected only honesty in return. When trouble came, as it always does on the frontier, it was Matthew who stood firm, not with fists, but with calm authority that left no room for doubt. Clara learned that the rancher had once been a frightened boy himself, blamed for things beyond his control, and that kindness had saved him when punishment would have destroyed him. As seasons passed, Thomas grew stronger and surer, learning responsibility under Matthew's watchful guidance, while Clara found herself building a future she thought grief had stolen from her forever. The legend of the giant rancher changed, not overnight, but steadily, until people no longer spoke of fear but of fairness, of a man who judged hearts rather than mistakes. And whenever someone asked Matthew why he had smiled instead of shouted that morning at the gate, he would simply say that a child brave enough to tell the truth deserved a chance to grow into it. By the time the next window broke in town, it was fixed by neighbors working together before blame could be cast, because kindness, once witnessed, has a way of spreading. If this story of compassion, accountability,